welcome to this webinar about the Cyberfundamentals update, the Belgium framework, but I should almost say European framework because there's a lot of things that are happening about that. We have a few speakers, but the foremost is Johan de Kok. So Johan, if you just can switch to the next slide, please.
Yeah, no problem.
So what we'll do today is to go through the Cyberfundamentals principles. Then Johan will also present the new updates about the 25 version and the differences between that. We'll also go through the labeling and certification aspects. I believe that this is an important one, and some of the knowledge and information might not have been captured by the audience here. We'll leave some room at the end for the question and answers, and then the closure will be given by Peter. Can you go to the next slide? So with regards to the speakers, I myself in the middle, Jean-Luc Peters. I'm the head of the National Cyber Emergency Response Team, but also a PSCB trainer. Johan de Kok, a colleague and an expert, but I'll leave to Johan to present himself at the end, and then Peter will also intervene at the end of this presentation. So without any further delay, Johan, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Jean-Luc. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Johan de Kok. As you can see, I have more than 25 years experience in IT, mainly infrastructure support, but the latest 15 years also more and more involved in security and data protection and privacy. I'm also a PCB certified trainer. I act as an NIS2 inspector for the CCB, and I do also accreditation audits for the national accreditation body called BELAC.
Johan, is it me or can the people hear, but they hear you with some small interruptions? Is there somebody who confirms, or is it only my side? So I see yes. It's fine here. Okay, so it's probably my side. I will shut up. Just proceed, Johan.
Okay, no problem. Great. So this afternoon, I would like to take you all on a Cyfun Cyberfundamentals journey, mainly to see the difference between the 2023 version and the 2025 version. But first of all, I think it's a good idea to have a general view on what Cyberfundamentals is, if there are still some attendants that are not familiar with Cyberfundamentals. So let's go. First of all, Cyberfundamentals is something that we've created within the CCB, Center for Cybersecurity for Belgium. And we created 4 different levels, like small, basic, important, and essential. The small version, or the small assurance level, is actually created for the very, very small micro SMEs who don't have any local or outsourced IT department, but they would like to have some security in place already. Then we have the basic assurance level. It has 34 controls in place. The important assurance level has 99 specific controls, and the essential has 85 specific controls. It's not that if you're only going for the essential, the highest level, that doesn't mean that you only have 85 specific controls. No, you need to also include the basic and important controls. The Cyberfundamentals framework is based on some other frameworks because we don't like to reinvent the wheel all the time. So we had a look at the NIST CSF. In first version, it was 1.0. Now we're talking about the NIST CSF 2.0 in 2025. We also use the ISO 27001 and ISO 27002 as a reference, the sys controls, and then also for the OT part, we had a look at the IEC 62443. Based on information and on cyber incidents that we had in the past. We verified our framework and the necessary to implement controls. We verified it with our CERT, with the colleagues of our CERT team, and apparently 82% of the attacks could be countered by implementing the basic assurance level. If you would like to implement the important assurance level, then you have nearly 94 attacks that could be countered, and essential would cover or countered 100% of the incident that time. I'm 100% sure that 100% is not valid within cybersecurity because there is not something like a 100% bulletproof solution. So, yeah. Okay, we have the Cyberfundamentals ecosystem. By the way, it's all publicly freely available on Cyfun.eu. We have the booklets, of course. They're also downloadable in PDF at the website. We have the 4 assurance levels, like we have the small, basic, important, and essential cyber fundamentals. We have some tools created for you as well, the cyber fundamentals framework mapping. So that's mapping the standards that we discussed in the previous slide with our controls. We have the Cyfun selection tool. Between brackets, we are talking about the risk assessment, but make no mistake, this is not the risk assessment that you should conduct within a company to know and to mitigate all the risks or to do a proper risk management in your company or at your customer's company. Then one of the main important tools or Excel sheets is the Cyfun self-assessment tool. This is the complete Excel file with all different controls in there, and then you can score your implementation level. We have a maturity of documentation, and we have also an implementation maturity level. And to be completed, we created also some policy templates for the cyber fundamentals basic level, and we are working on templates on policies for the essential and important entities. But this will be mainly the same policy documents, but there will be some notification to implement this paragraph or the other paragraph to meet the needs for the higher level of assurance level. We have then also the cyber fundamentals labels that we can send out if we agree on that. So we have for a verification on basic, we have a basic verified Cyfun label. We have a silver important, a verified Cyfun label, and then we have the Cyfun essential certified label. In the certification, we're talking more on the level of an ISO 27001 audit like-ish thing. But if you would like to have more details on that, there is a conformity assessment scheme on the website on cyfun.eu, and there all the details are in there for certification bodies so that they know what they need to complete before they can receive the accreditation of BELAC or National Accreditation Body. Next slide is on the proportionality within Cyfun. So we have already talked about the 3 assurance levels, basic, important, and essential. You see on the basic, it's basically mainly truth-driven cyber hygiene. In the important, we are going in a higher level or in a higher level of assurance. That means that, you're closing the door with an extra 20 locks, for example. And in the essential assurance level, it's really, we're not talking about Fort Knox, but it might be a good idea to start implementing then very high level and high technical equipment, and it makes also the the cyber attack, more and more difficult for the attackers. So within Cyberfundamentals, we have something that calls the key measures. Key measures, these are measures and controls that are that you should implement without any question asked. It's just like just do it and implement them. Why? Because these key measures are a focus on what is in real life during the attacks. So the key measures are verified and mapped also with our colleagues of the CERT to see, okay, if these key measures were implemented, what was the status of the incidents and what was the number of incidents that could be avoided. You see below here, you have the acceptance thresholds from considering the maturity levels. We're talking about a minimum of 2.5 on 5 for the basic level on the maturity level. Important is higher than 3 out of 5, and essential is also higher than 3 out of 5. We have two different maturity categories. We have the documentation maturity, and we have also the implementation maturity levels. The total maturity score for basic should be at least 2.5. For the important, it should be at least 3, and at essential, it should be at least 3.5. If you're talking about 3.5 or higher, we are talking about a very robust system, and that means that there will be a high level of maturity within the company already. So this was basically a short intro on cyber fundamentals. So now, what's new in Cyber Fundamentals 2025? First of all, the most important thing is that we aligned it with the NIST Cybersecurity Framework 2.0 and all relevant European legislation, for example, NIS2. Make no mistake, the Cyber Fundamentals was originally not designed to have a performance of conformity for NIS2. It was a framework that was created to help the Belgian SMEs or companies to raise their cybersecurity awareness and resilience within their companies. Second bullet point, it incorporates recent developments in information and cybersecurity. Indeed, we did some more and more investigation, and we involved and included also more new techniques and more best practices and hands-on things. Also very important is that we had some users or stakeholders that we invited to have a look at a new version, and we integrated their feedback, not 100% and not one-on-one, but we had some feedback on Cyber Fundamentals 2023, and we modified them together with a meeting with those stakeholders to see what they really would like us to inform on certain things. What is also new in 2025 is the focus that we have put on supply chain security, and also more and more in detail going to the OT part of it, because you have OT, you have IT, there are two different worlds, but they should work together. And it's not a very easy exercise to make. I'm very hard aware of that. Why we expanded our focus on the supply chain security? Again, if you see that we are in the first bullet point, we're talking about relevant European legislation, for example, NIS2, and Within NIS2, supply chain security is a very important part, and yeah, that's the reason why we expanded our focus also on the supply chain security. What we also did was we did some reformulate of controls and guidelines. Why? Because some stakeholders informed us that the guidance or the control was not that clear for them to implement or to audit the result of the control. So that's the reason why we did some clarity and some auditability changes on the controls. Also new in the 2025 version is that we add a specific goal to each control to improve the understanding. That's also a very important part that we can take with the bullet point above on the clarity and auditability. So the more that we improve the understanding of the controls, the better you can implement them and the better that they can be auditable. So that's the reason why the improve of the understanding is also part of it. We created a more comprehensive guidance on the interpretation of it. Then the main point is that within 2023 we didn't have governance measures, but within the 2025 we have governance measures included to support the auditability of the essential level. And then also we created different spreadsheets. Now we have, if I'm not mistaken, we have a spreadsheet for basic, one for important and one for essential. So then you can focus on the implementation and you will have only the core requirements, yeah, so that you can easily manage your assurance level in the future. And then, of course, we did some grammatical, spelling, and editorial issues to correct them, because apparently there were some typos and all those things included in the version, in the older version. So Cyfun 2025 and NIST CSF 2.0. You see, we have in the old version we have the five functions like identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. We have in total 5 functions, 23 categories, and 108 subcategories. If we now put Cyfun 2025 together, then you can see that the first one, at least we have 6 functions because governance is added. We have 22 categories and we have 106 subcategories. So that means that even if there is an additional function, we reduced the number of categories and subcategories. Updates reflecting the evolving threat landscape. So for supply chain, we had some controls and measures included, extra included. For shared and virtualized environments, for example, cloud, we also added some more controls, and for software flaws as well. This is specific for those categories, and it was, well, I will not say not missing within 2023 version, but it's more clear now in the 2025 version. Basically, the Cyfun architecture is actually quite the same as in Cyfun 2023. So you have a function with a category, you have your subcategory, and then you will have your requirement, for example, for basic. That's good. You can see also here that in this example, it is a key measure. So that means that you need to implement and need to include this control. If you have the level important for your company, then you should implement the key measure on the basic assurance level, and then you will have an extra requirement on the important assurance level. In this example, this is also a second key measure, but then for the important assurance level. If you now would go to the highest assurance level and it is essential, then you will see that there is a third requirement that will be included. This is not a key measure, but if you would like to fulfill and to meet the needs for the essential assurance level, you should implement those three requirements with the basic, important, and the essential requirement. And here below, you will see the references for each subcategory to implement those requirements. So we have cyber fundamentals, we have controls. I will not go to them all of those controls. But you can see there are some controls that are still in there, but there are also controls that are withdrawn from the old version within the new version. And as you see in the one of the previous slides, you will see that I will just go back 2 slides. Here you see that some of those identify functions are now incorporated within the governance function and the identify function. Though that means that some of them will be redrawn, some of them will be recalculated as well. So if we can see it over here, you see within basic, this control, for example, is not in there, but then here you can see you see it before 2023 version, the 2025 version. Some of those controls are renamed. Some of the controls are combined, or there is an extra control. So yeah, you should have, if you would like to use the Cyber Fundamentals framework and you're already working with 2023, you should do a mapping within your own company between the requirements that are already there and the subcategories and what is needed to complete the 2025 version. Cyber Fundamentals in figures now. We have 2023 version versus 2025. In total, Cyber Fundamentals 2025, we lost one control. Within the essential part, we have 7 key measures. In total, essential specific key measures, specific measures will be 85. For essential, we had in the past, we had in 8 key measures, and we had only 79 requirements. So that means that we decreased one key measure, but that we added 6 specific requirements. The same we can see here for the important level. So here we added one key measure. If we take it in reference with 2023, we have in the important version 2025, we have 99 requirements instead of 106 in the past. The Cyber Fundamentals basic assurance level has the same amount of key measures for basic, and also the total specific requirements are the same. So that means that yeah, there was a bit of reshuffling, but at the end, the resilience of the company, the cyber resilience of the company, will increase. Here again, the key measures in one slide. So For basic, it stays on 13. The important level has 8 in the old version. Now in the new version, you will have 9. And in the essential assurance level, we still have 7 key measures within Cyber Fundamentals 2025. So that means that a company that will go for a certification of the assurance level essential should, without any questions asked, at least implement 29 key measures, because you need to implement them all then, because you're on the highest level. Here we have listed the key measures for Cyfun Basic, just to be sure, to be complete. We have also the other for the Cyfun important assurance level. You see that here we're talking, as we already said, we have one key measure extra, and this is the key measure RSCO02.2, and it's referring for NIS important and essential entities. Essential, again, we have 7, we had 7 key measures. We still have 7 within the new version of 2025. There are no key measures. Accessibility, enhancements, rephrasing, and renumbering are the only changes that are being done, because you're seeing numbers are changing. And indeed here you have some changes within wording and rephrasing. So now we have Cyber Fundamentals, and why it's very nice tool, because it's measurable. You can, as a company or as a consultant, you can support companies when implementing Cyber Fundamentals, and you will see that you have different levels of maturity. You have the initial, repeatable, defined, managed, and optimized. Again, we are talking about policy maturity and practice maturity. Within the self-assessment tool, we're talking about documentation score and implementation score. Mainly the policy maturity is in line with the documentation score, and implementation is more in line with the practice maturity score. I'll come back to this within a couple of slides, because I know the documentation score and the implementation score, it's quite difficult to get those scores correct within my understanding. But at the end, for management, it would be a very nice thing to have to see what the general overall maturity scoring at the moment is of the company, where there are a lot of gaps that needs to be closed. That means that management should free up the necessary resources to complete the to hire the implementation scores, so that the end scoring of 2.5 at minimum on 5 for basic, or the 3.5 as a minimum for important, and the 3.5 out of 5 for essential will be reached. And that's very nice within the tool, that you will have an automatically calculation, an automatic calculation of the maturity scores. And here you can also see that you have the maturity scores within each function. As you can see on the slide here, we are only presenting you the Cyfun 2023 version on the functions, because the governance function is not there yet. Okay, Cyber Fundamentals supervision. So you see we created some booklets for each level. If we're talking about the supervision, then our colleagues of BELAC are in the scope, and also we at the CCB are also involved in the supervision of Cyfun. So if you have a conformity assessment body, a CAP, a certification company, if they would like to do some verifications or certification for Cyberfundamentals, they should, first of all, they should get accredited by BELAC. BELAC is our national accreditation body, and they will send out auditors, accreditation auditors, to see if the conformity assessment body meets the needs that are written in the conformity assessment scheme that is also available on our website. If the national accreditation body, BELAC for Belgium, declares that the conformity assessment body is okay and in conformity with all accreditation requirements, that will be the conformity assessment scheme and the ISO 17029 standard for verification. Then they receive their accreditation. If the accreditation is received for a conformity assessment body, then they can get an approval also from the Center for Cybersecurity in Belgium to be a conformity assessment body to conduct cyber fundamentals verifications or audits in case of the essential part. When the conformity assessment body has all the green lights to perform conformity assessments at the customer site, in the ideal world, the company that has requested an audit or a verification can receive their certificate and or their label, so they can put it on the website or put it on documentation or do some marketing parts on it. So that means that if you have basic cyber fundamentals, basic implemented, and the conformity assessment body declares that they're that your requirements are in line with the needs of the conformity assessment scheme and the self-assessment requirements, then you can receive the basic label. Same for the important, and that's both verification, so that's under another standard like the ISO 17029. And if you're going as a company, as an essential company, you would like to receive your Cyfun Essential Certified label, that's based on the ISO 17021-1 accreditation for management systems. All this in one slide. So the CAS is the conformity assessment scheme. We designed it as well in collaboration with our national accreditation body, BELAC. You can see there are three types of assessment. You have the verification, you have the certification, we have the verification of the self-assessment, and we have a certification audit. Here you see as well that it always needs to be an accredited CAP, conformity assessment body. The accreditation standards are 17029 and 17021-1 with some additional cyber fundamentals requirements, but these are stated in the conformity assessment scheme. So if there are people within the call who are working for conformity assessment bodies and they would like to have an accreditation for cyber fundamentals, they should have a look at the conformity assessment scheme on our website. So the frequency of a verification is just a statement only on that situation. With And the difference with an audit is there that if you're in a certification audit, it's mainly a cycle of 3 years. You will have a complete audit, and then you have a partial surveillance 1 and surveillance 2 audit, and then for the recertification, you have again a full complete audit. The assurance evidence will be a verified claim for the basic and important, and you will have a certificate for the essential. We're talking about a new version of Cyberfundamentals 2025. Make sure, be aware, there will be a transition period for the companies who are already did a great job on implementing Cyberfundamentals 2023, and they will see now that there will be a new version. So they will need to double check afterwards. But there will be a transition period. I don't have any timeline yet of or due the period of the transition period. As from the moment that it's clear, the communication will be on the website on cyfun.be, definitely, or cyfun.eu. Okay, Cyberfundamentals, basic and important, using the ISO 27001 certification. It can be used and you can receive those labels without any problem. And here we have the different bullet points that should be taken into account for. When can you receive the Cyfun label basic and important? If your ISO 27001 latest version 2022 certificate is used by an accredited CAP, the statement of applicability that is linked with the provided ISO certificate. There should also be a clear statement where the applicant wants to obtain a label basic or important, and the statement of applicability, the SOA, that is a part of the certification shall include the requirements of Cyfun basic or important. This can be proven, of course, by the mapping, and I think that there is a lot of mapping already done in the Excel sheet that can be found on our website. And of course, we should like to see evidence of successful implementation of all key measures. So that might be a good start. Make sure that although the Cyfun conformity assessment scheme does not impose a specific format for the evidence to provide, it must enable the assessment of the effective implementation of the key measures. And the certification authority of the CCB can also request additional information. So an advice from my side, if you're working on self-assessment, please be so specific as possible on the evidences and send enough evidence with you together with the self-assessment to the CAP or to the CCB. Another statement that is very important is it's not because you've received a Cyfun label that you're NIS2 compliant, or if there is a presumption of conformity for NIS2. There are some specific things within the NIS2 legislation that are, for example, not included in the Cyberfundamentals framework. Why? Because it was not intended in the first time to be a framework for NIS2. And yes, indeed, we did some modifications and we added some parts, but we didn't add all of them. The same for the Cyberfundamentals Essential Certified label. It is very important also that if we're talking about ISO 27001 certification and the certificate by an accredited CAP, there may be make no mistake, there is a 100% scope for the company. So that means that you can not only certify your IT department on ISO 27001-2022, no, the whole company should be in the scope. If you're in a manufacturing environment, we're talking about IT and OT, definitely. The statement of applicability should also be included, and there should be a mapping between what's in Cyberfundamentals Essential and your statement of applicability. Again, evidences and enough evidences to send to the CAP or to us so that we can verify if everything that's implemented and had a maturity score or is checked by the auditor on the ISO 27001 part, that we can see that indeed everything is there for a good certification or for a good label of essential. Again, NIS2 presumption of conformity is not the same as receiving a Cyfun label. Now, the three-step implementation process for Cyberfundamentals. First of all, you should do a risk assessment. And we're talking about the risk assessment that's available on our website, and it's actually more a Cyfun selection tool. There are some parameters that you can modify, and then you can see what kind of level of Cyberfundamentals you should implement for your organization. Make sure that you're correct in there. That means that of course, you can play with the numbers and then downgrade your level of assurance that you should have. But yeah, what's the added value of doing that? If you're an essential entity within NIS2, it doesn't make sense that you should implement Cyberfundamental Basic, for example. There might be a good idea to start as a starting point, but at the end, you should receive at least, as an essential company, at least the essential assurance level. The second step will be then the self-assessment, of course, and therefore you can download the self-assessment tools and other tools that are available on the website, like the policies, are good templates to use if you're so that you don't need to start from a white page, a blank page. All templates and policies are modifiable, so you can add or remove things as you would like, but make sure that the basic information within the policies is according what the requirements are within Cyberfundamentals. And when you have done your self-assessment and you said, okay, yeah, I'm ready, I think that we will get or we will reach the maturity score needed for the assurance level that we would like to see and to have. Then we go for a conformity assessment by a conformity assessment body, and there is on the website of the CCB, you can also download the link to, or you can also download the list of the authorized CAPs for the moment. Now, I spoke earlier about the maturity levels and the scoring that you can give it to them as from implementation and documentation maturity levels. We're talking about 1 till 5 for both levels. But yeah, it is difficult to pinpoint where the thresholds are for those numbering, for those levels, the 5 levels that we implemented it. So there is a theoretically information on the website, but then again, we are talking about percentage, and maybe it's rather difficult to interpret or to implement. So we created for the 3 different assurance levels, we created some use cases. And they're also, I think that you will receive all the, we will make the presentation available. And within the presentation, I added and included the link directly to the correct use cases for the basic, important, and essential levels separately. So, for example, we'll have a self-assessment maturity level basic, and then we will go through the use cases. For example, we have here PRAC-1.1, identities and credentials for authorized devices and users shall be managed. If you double check the information that is within the self-assessment sheet, Excel sheet, with the definition of the maturity levels and the evidences to be considered, it will be more and more high level and holistic. And now here we are, it's rather, I would not say in detail, but at least now you should know what we are looking for during audits or verifications. So a company that has documented this process, that's great, but there is no versioning on it and it's not formally approved by management, cannot score higher than maturity number level 1 within their documentation maturity. Even if the procedure is state of the art and everybody can conduct the process and can complete the procedures, as from the moment that it's not versioning and it's not approved and it's not be reviewed the past 2 years, the maximum maturity level for that document will be only 1, because it's not controlled, version controlled, and approved documentation is not on there, so they cannot include or add those things. Same for the maturity implementation. If we have implementation, you can see what kind of evidences that we are looking for. So identities and credentials for authorized devices and users are managed. We can go more and more in detail on that, but I think this will take too much time at the end. So this is for the basic level. Of course, we created one for the important level as well. Make no mistake, this is not only one use case. We have created for all requirements use cases, so you can verify them for each level. Here as well, you have the controlled versions. It's mainly always the same. The same for essential use cases in the high level. So you'll see that it's more and more something that we added to help organizations to understand what we are looking for, and it's also for the CAPs, conformity assessment bodies, and the auditors or the verificators. It's a guideline for them on what they should look for. So at least that we are working together. Cyberfundamentals in the European Union for the moment. Belgium is still the scheme owner, but we have Romania and Ireland that are joining us in a scheme owner group, because Romania and Ireland are doing also a 100% adoption of Cyberfundamentals. Portugal is at this moment as an observing member, so they're still thinking about it. Croatia is using Cyfun for their basics in their legislation. our colleagues from ANSI said that it might be not a bad idea to implement cyber fundamentals. We did it in the French Senate, so yeah, I think that we're doing something good, at least not doing not something bad, at least. The added value here is that we created our conformity assessment scheme. We created it using the multiple recognition procedures and acceptance from the European Accreditation Board. So that means that everything that we are doing is in line with the European accreditation. So the cyber fundamentals level basic for company A will be the same level basic for another company in Spain or in France or in Ireland or in Romania, for example. So it's more and more standardized. So that means that if we're talking about the cyber fundamentals label essential, they know within Ireland and in Romania what that mean for that company. Sneak preview, added value will be as well that the managed security service provider certification scheme from Europe. It might be that cyber fundamentals will be one of the starting points of building their compliance for NIS2. So that means that managed security service providers should implement a management system. I know everybody is looking at ISO 27001 as a management system for information security. That's correct. But it would be possible to use cyber fundamentals as well within Europe to demonstrate your NIS2 compliance as an MSSP. The implementation of the timeline for essential entities. The first milestone will be April 2026. Then companies should be in line with cyber fundamentals basic or important. And at the end, in 2027, April 18th, it should be completed for all companies that they should be essential. They should have a cyber fundamental essential label by certification. You see that there is also an equivalent by inspection. That means that you will not ask a conformity assessment body to come over and to do an audit via CAP. That's good, that's fine, but then you can also use our company, well, our department within the CCB, who will do then the inspections. And then the inspection team of the CCB will come over and do a verification or an audit on your cyber fundamentals implementation. So this was my presentation for the moment. I think there is some room for Q&A.
Yeah, of course. I've noted down a few questions. Johan, thanks very much for the presentation and the preparation work. The first question I noted down is that there's some references in the controls about should and not shall. Was this a typo or is it really shall? Because we're mentioning about the key measures and the obligations to implement it, so they all should be shall, I imagine.
Are we talking about the requirements are shall, or is it in the guidance that it is should?
I believe that if the colleague who was sending that remark in the chat can just add a little bit more context about it, because to be honest, I didn't really capture it. I'm just browsing through.
If I'm not mistaken, the shoulds are in the guidance and not in the requirement, because guidance is guidance and that's should. But in the control that needs to be implemented, that there will be a shall if there is a shall or should mistake. Especially with the key measures.
About the key measures I see here in the chat. Non-key measures are should, apparently.
Then I need to double check, because that shouldn't be a case.
But we'll pick it up. We'll pick it up somewhere, because of course, if it's mandatory, it's the verb shall that needs to be used. I almost would have said should be used, but shall be used.
The shall be used.
Okay, then the second question was, can we start with a self-assessment level basic when the selection tool has pointed out that my organization is up to the level important or essential?
Yeah, 100% go for it. Start low with basic, implement basic, and if you saw the timelines, make sure that you keep your timelines, but you should definitely start with basic, because I know that going to a higher level is asking for more resources, budgets are need to make up, and all those things. So it's definitely a good idea to start with basic.
Okay, thank you. Then another one, it's about the availability in our national languages, Dutch and French. So we have the Cyfun controls, and we have also the self-assessment tool. Are there plans? Is it in the pipeline to have those translated in the national languages?
If I'm not mistaken, the booklets and the requirements are translated in the national languages, but the self-assessment is not.
Okay, so it's more the helper tool. Self-assessment is a helper tool that you can use to conduct your risk assessment that you can use. So this will, for the moment, remain in English then, the helpers tools. Okay, thanks. Another question is, what if the verification is requested? So you need to have a verification, but it's planned, and I believe you already touched upon that in the timeline, but it's planned to be done after April the 18th, 2026. So basically, I think that the real obligations are more 2027 that you look for. Huh?
Yeah, that's true. Okay. We asked, well, at the end, it's 2020, it's 18 April 2027 that everything should be included and then implemented. Within April 2026, we are asking companies to have at least basic or important implemented. But if you can, well, that's my personal opinion. If you can show me as an auditor that all appointments are made to get a verification done, for example, in June 2026, we will flag it, definitely. But I don't think that there will be any consequence directly be there. So, yeah, I will not say now, sit back, take it easy and relax and aim for 2027, but then, because then you will not get there at the essential level. But yeah, don't stress too hard on not having something in place at 2026. But we need to see progress, and at least if we're going to ask them timelines for the audit and all those kind of things.
Okay, thank you. Then another question, but I believe the answer is probably rather straightforward. So if you start with a new self-assessment, so completely new organization or customer, do you advise to use immediately the 2025 scheme?
Yes, please. I think that's the best way of working at that moment.
Uh, Then coming back to a small remark that I saw a little bit later into the chat's history, is that the mapping tool for the moment apparently is still referring to the 2023 version.
Yeah.
So where you're referring to so I imagine that there are plans to do the mapping and the updates on the 2025 version as well, because I've seen
Yes.
that in
Yes.
your
Yes.
slides as well.
Yeah. That is true. We're still working on it, but it's a hell of a job to do all those things.
I perfectly imagine that it's a lot of work, of course. Then another one that's that's an interesting one. What is the Cyfun value in countries that don't adopt? I will just change it. It states here cooperate, but adopt Cyfun, for example, the Netherlands, etc.
Yeah, that's currently that's still an issue, because in countries that they don't support Cyfun, they say, yeah, it's fine, that's fun, but there is no added value for the moment. So currently, as long as that we're still not working with European level, because we are, I think we are on the good way to get there. With Ireland, Romania, and all the other countries that are moving forward to cyber fundamentals. But if you're an international company, then Cyfun is only within Belgium and the supporting countries of Cyfun of an added value. Therefore, yeah, then the ISO 27001 certification is still a more added value than Cyfun. But does not mean that you cannot use cyber fundamentals to implement in your Belgian company to get your ISO 27001 certification,
Mhm.
because you can map your controls to Cyfun and then you have both implemented.
Yeah. Or you use the Cyfun controls as
Yeah,
the appendix controls instead of the 27002 or something like that, and
yeah,
you
yeah.
can also map it like that, which should probably be a very interesting one. And then, of
Hmm.
course, with the mapping tool, etc., you have a 360 degrees on the certification, the scope, and the compliance as well aspects. Then I'm looking through that I don't forget. In case a control is not in scope, how to set the maturity. To be honest, if it's not
Well,
in scope, probably will be difficult to set the maturity.
yeah, but I understand the question. Why? Because if your control is out of scope with the old version of the self-assessment tool, if
Hmm.
you're putting your control out of scope and you put your maturity level on 1,
Hmm.
yeah, it has consequences for your total maturity score.
Hmm.
The same if you put it on 5, it has also a consequence on the total maturity score. We thought about that as well, and I think in the latest version we had a solution for that.
Okay, thank you. Another question is, will Cyfun become mandatory? So mandatory, really obligatory in Belgium?
Um, for the moment, I don't think there are now any ideas. Well, there are ideas enough, but I don't know if we have already enough support to make it obligatory for the companies. Within the Belgian law for NIS2, there is a reference to cyber fundamentals or ISO 27001. So if you're NIS2 related company or you're into scope of NIS2, you should implement cyber fundamentals or ISO 27001. But for other companies that are not in scope of NIS2, we cannot ask them or push them to cyber fundamentals. Is it a bad idea? No, definitely not.
Okay.
I think, from my personal opinion, every company within Belgium should start thinking of cybersecurity and start thinking of implementing Cyfun basic and at least the key measures.
Okay, I'm seeing that there are still two questions popping in. Looking at the time, so it's still okay. So Peter has 10 minutes left for him. Otherwise, he will be very mad. So this one. So I'm just reading through. I was also wondering. So if ISO 27000 and Cyfun cannot provide with a NIS2 compliance attestation, what needs to be done to prove NIS2 compliance? I think it refers to slide 2022, I believe, where you make a clear warning sign to say, be careful that there is a difference.
Yeah, there is within NIS2, we're talking about reporting of an incident, 24 hours, 72 hours, 30-day report.
Mm-hmm.
This is not included in ISO 27001 stated as that, and neither it is stated as well in Cyfun. It's also with your vulnerability disclosure. It's not stated as well in Cyfun, and we have done also the part of the C-cert within the companies.
Okay, so this would be an interesting one to clarify somewhere, because as far as I understand, it's basically to add into the procedures and the policies that there is a reporting obligation within 24, 72 and 1 month to the national C-certs to be done, and then to prove that actually in case of an important incident, you have actually done the work. This is basically what you mean then.
Yeah.
So it's more the more implementation nuances.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, thank you. And then the last question I'm having here, how often is Cyfun framework updated? Or what is the goal or the aim?
Now we just updated it on a new NIST CSF version. I need to talk with my colleagues on the frequency of updates. I don't have any idea now, but I think that, I cannot give a 100% correct answer on this one, but I think it will be reviewed as we see that there is a lot of support for review and updates.
Yeah, because for the moment, it is faster than the ISO update cycles.
Yeah.
So I imagine it's somewhere between less than 5 years, I hope, or imagine.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.